Hi Johannesburg, my name is Ntandienko Sikunene, Miss South Africa 2016. And as you all know, the water situation in our country is not looking very good. It needs you and me to make the necessary changes and adjustments to how we use water. So from me to you, let's use water very carefully.
Hello and welcome to Joburg Today. My name is Dumi Hlapo, bringing you the best of what's going down in and around Johannesburg. Water and sanitation are an important cornerstone of public health. We have a chat to Johannesburg Water to have a look at how they ensure the city has enough clean water and an efficient sanitation system.
Clean water and sanitation, two of the most important cornerstones of public health. In Johannesburg, this is the responsibility of Joburg Water.
The difference between Johannesburg Water and rainwater is that we don't produce our water. We buy water in bulk from rainwater, and then we store it in our service reservoirs.
We've got about 12,600 kilometers of pipes throughout the whole city and over 100 reservoirs. Basically, the water we buy from rainwater, we transport it through those pipes into the reservoirs and then back to people.
When the water enters Joburg Water's system, water quality becomes the utility's responsibility.
On a monthly basis, we've got our laboratory which takes samples throughout the whole city. We take over 500 samples throughout the whole networks, which we take it to our laboratory for analysis. And above that, I'm sure you might have heard about the Blue Drop system, which is an initiative of the Department of Water and Sanitation, whereby they do an audit to all the water management systems. And since the introduction of this assessment, Johannesburg Water has constantly been receiving A+, which we are confident that the quality of water is quite good.
And despite what may seem high water tariffs, Johannesburg Water says prices are reasonable.
We buy water in bulk from rainwater, and it costs us, in terms of today's money, R500 million. So we provide free basic water across income groups. That's number one. Number two, despite the fact that the bulk water tariffs, increases tend to be, especially over the last 3 years, double digit and above inflation, we have very little margin, but we have been able to cope. So I would say Johannesburg Water's water and sanitation services are affordable compared to, for example, Tshwane, where Tshwane have stopped providing free basic water across all income groups. And mind you, we have an added cost in that we import water in Gauteng, because we also, in the tariff, we also have to pay back the investment loans that we made for the Lesotho Water Island scheme.
Johannesburg Water is confident that it will be able to provide water in future. But clearly, this is much more complicated than opening a tap. Marisa de Klerk, Joburg Today.
Hi, I'm Danny Glover, and you're watching Joburg Today.
Like us on Facebook, joburgtoday.tv, and follow us on Twitter at Joburg Today. To highlight the importance of World Water Day, Nashina had a chat to a local expert on the subject of water and water conservation.
All human being activities and well-being are directly associated with water. And in particular, Johannesburg, we are in a very, very unique position because we are the only city in the world that's not on a river, not on a lake, or not on a seafront. We happen to straddle a continental watershed divide. And that opens up a whole lot of challenges for the city of Johannesburg in particular.
No doubt water is the source of life, which is why the UN wants to create this awareness so that we can preserve this natural resource, use it wisely. But is it measurable in terms of how much of traction this awareness campaign on World Water Day is gaining?
Well, I think the UN plays a very important role in getting a global consensus, if you like. And this year, the theme is wastewater, how to recover and recapture and recycle wastewater. Now, this is very important because ultimately the future of mankind, as our population grows and outstrips our resource availability on planet Earth, we are going to increasingly have to start recycling. So countries, for example, like Singapore, like Namibia, for example, are fairly far advanced in the recycling of water. We have not yet begun to do that. So the fact that the United Nations has chosen this wastewater as this new resource, I think is very responsible, because it talks about living within our means, if you like, and ultimately capturing water, cascading water around your economy for different purposes and different prices, different values.
Let's talk about urban areas, urban cities like the city of Johannesburg, for example. What are some of the challenges around enhancing that awareness, creating that awareness, so people can become more passionately aware about the need to preserve water and the importance of this resource? Here, everything's about deadlines. So, it's probably, you see the billboards, preserve water, and you do your best. But there isn't that passion for it. What needs to be done in cities like Johannesburg?
I think what we need to understand is that our relationship, our well-being, our very well-being as an individual or as a group, as a nation, is dependent on water availability. And I'll just give you a number, for example. Every human being in South Africa produces on average about 100 litres of wastewater every day. So that's 100 litres of water that goes down the sewer somewhere. We've got 50 million people. So 50 million people times 100 litres of wastewater is a substantial amount of water. So as we start unrolling technologies to recover that, it's very important. But more importantly is the social change. Singapore, for example, recycles all of its water. It calls it new water. It's not called wastewater, it's called new water. And it spent most of its budget not on the purchase of technology, but on behavioral change, media programs to ultimately get people to change their behavior.
Well, we're just coming out of a drought. We've had that in terms of media campaigns to drive the awareness coming through from different authorities around preserving water during the drought. Do you think that concretized a behavioral shift? Was that enough?
Personally, I don't think so, because people generally are uninterested in water. They don't really care about it. And so the fact that Vaal Dam is now full, what we forget is that the city of Johannesburg, just 6 months ago, had 1 week of water left. Just think about that. So we dodged the bullet in such a way 1 week ago. Now, where is that knowledge other than within a handful of technical specialists? We need to understand just how close we are to an unpleasant outcome. And it doesn't have to be an unpleasant outcome. It all depends on our attitude. So our attitude ultimately has to be to embrace the fact that we are part of an ecosystem, that the water that you drank this morning when you cleaned your teeth went through a dinosaur's kidney 63 million years ago, and water has constantly been recycled. If we respect it, if we become stewards for it, if we adopt the stewardship kind of custodial initiative, if you like, then we've actually got a very, very good future ahead of us. But if we ignore it, if we abuse it, I'm afraid then the outcome is not going to be so pretty.
There were punitive measures in place during the drought in a city like Johannesburg. Do you think that should be an ongoing policy?
What I've seen from the punitive measures was that they generally backfired. They had a negative unintended consequence. And what the unintended consequence was, on the one hand, it has driven the private sector to simply look after their own interests. So effectively the state has lost control of that portion of the water cycle as a result of those initiatives. Now this I don't think is a desirable outcome, but it's an inevitable outcome. What it's also done is it's going to continue to drive the very visible disparity between rich and poor, between haves and have-nots in South Africa. This is something that we have to actively guard against. So on the one hand, you've got this negative outcome, but on the other hand, we've got the very, very strong need to have to do something. So I think what we need to do is depoliticize water. That's the important thing, firstly. Let's make water a technical issue. Let's make water a social issue. Water is the one thing that unites all kinds of communities. It is far too important to fight over. It is therefore in our vested interest to actually unite over managing that resource. And ultimately, if we start understanding that we have to enter a recycling future, if we have policy response to that effect, because we don't yet have policies in place for that, as soon as we have a policy response that's adequate, there are literally hundreds of technologies out there that are available to come in, and that also requires some degree of investment. So the question is, will the state invest? Will it be public money, or will the private sector invest? That's a very important distinction to make, because I personally don't see that the state has the capacity to invest. They simply don't have the resources anymore. Therefore, it comes down to a policy choice about a public-private partnership. How do you regulate the otherwise potentially voracious consumption appetite from the private sector? But how do we get that together with the need to bring technologies? How do we make the space investable?
Sure.
That's really what it's about.
Hello Joburg, I'm Sean Keeling, and I think you must take the water situation seriously because the population around the world is growing and water scarcity is becoming a major thing. And from a rowing perspective, I mean, in South Africa we don't have a lot of water, so to row in unhygienic water is a big problem. And if you're not looking after water, you can see outside how hot it is today. And if you don't take the water seriously, we're going to have a serious problem going forward.
I'm John Terode and you're watching Joburg Today.
For a little water fun and some relaxation, why not check out yoga on the dam? Check this out.
I absolutely loved this entire experience. It just shows you there's so much to do in Johannesburg. So yeah, it's a little jewel we discovered today.
I've been teaching yoga. I'm from Belgium, so I moved into South Africa and I really love the beautiful weather and the outdoors vibe. And Johannesburg, it's a busy city, but there's a lot of green places like this, a lot of trees and nature. And I thought if I was in Cape Town or Durban, I would probably be doing yoga on the beach. And then in Joburg, the closest I can get to a beach is a place like this on the dam outside in the nature. Well, I normally teach yoga often in the park or in yoga studios. And then you're quite comfortable, you're on the mat, the floor doesn't move. And if you take that, you take a lot of things for granted. That you can balance and you can stand on one leg. But as you've seen on the boards, it's not so evident anymore. So you have to take into account the board will wobble and it will lean to one side and it will tell you when you're off balance. So automatically you need to apply a little bit more, let's say, mindfulness when you move and a bit more core strength to stay into the midline of your board. We have a bit of everything. We have people who have done yoga before but not on the boards. We have some paddlers who are used to paddling, standing on the board but haven't done yoga. And then there's some people who are completely new to both. And we found like absolutely everybody can enjoy the class because we start off really gently and then we gradually build it up and give some options to do a few more difficult things.
This was my first time. It was really awesome. I actually expected to be in the water more than on the board, but it was actually not too bad. I managed to stay on the board. It was lots of fun. You really have to use your core because otherwise you'll fall in the water.
It was my first time. It was also my first time on a paddleboard. So that was something I've always wanted to do, and that's a great experience today.
There's a booking system because we only have 10 boards, so 10 students per class. So we use new tickets. There's yogaworks.newtickets.co.za if people want to book tickets.
If you want to try it, I can assure you it'll work out 100 because the workout I just had was absolutely amazing, filled with core strength, and definitely something worthwhile to check out. I'm Riley Shagani Posakwe for Joburg Today.
My message to all of you is to just really look after the water we have. You know what, we feel these intense heats and we've seen these incredible photos, such as the one I'm standing in front, of what the situation across South Africa is. And I'd like to encourage you to please save water and please take hands and thinking twice before you open your tap.
Hi, I'm Tansy Katsia, former Miss South Africa 2007, and you're watching Joburg Today.
That's all for today. For more on the city, do check out our playlist. From myself, Dimin Tlapo, and the Joburg Today crew, it's goodbye.